Hey, this is Mark from Performance Bicycle. I'm here today to talk about adjusting mechanical disc brakes. Once you understand the fundamentals, it's easy to adjust pretty much any brand of mechanical disc brake. So let's get started. The tools you'll need will be a full set of hex keys, a flat blade screwdriver, a Phillips head screwdriver, and a pair of cable cutters. Fundamentally, most mechanical disc brakes operate the same way and are adjusted the same way, but there are slight variations between brands. For instance, this Avid BB5 has a large dial to adjust the inboard pad in and out, whereas this Hayes MX5 uses a 5mm hex key to adjust the inboard pad in and out. So a tool is needed for this, no tool is needed for this, but they adjust the same way. The cable's anchored in basically the same point on both of these brakes with a 5mm hex key as well. So there are slight variations between brands, but you can apply what we go over here to pretty much any brand. So the three primary reasons you'll want to adjust your disc brakes are for pad wear or replacement, for brake cable stretch or replacement, or if you change wheels and your rotor placement changes a little bit. So as your pads wear, they become thinner and you need to move the brake pads in to account for that extra distance. You have an inboard and an outboard pad, and you'll want to adjust those accordingly. You'll first adjust the inboard pad, turn it clockwise, that'll move it closer to the rotor, and you want it to just not touch the rotor. On the outboard pad, you'll want to adjust that as well, clockwise to move it in, but you'll want to leave a slightly bigger gap on the outside. That's the pad that moves when the cable is actuated and presses the rotor into the inboard pad. So when you install new pads, the new pads are going to be thicker than the old ones, so it's kind of the opposite of adjusting for worn pads. You're going to want to move the pistons out instead of in. You'll take the inboard pad, back it out by turning it counterclockwise. For the outboard pad, again, turn it counterclockwise. That'll move the piston away from the rotor. And then just bring the pads back into their appropriate place. You'll want the inboard pad just not touching the rotor, and you'll want a little more space on the outboard pad. Adjusting for cable stretch, or if you replace the cable, is pretty simple. There are 2 points on the system that you'll want to make those adjustments, so let's go over them. First is the cable anchor bolt. This is where the cable's fastened at the brake caliper. If you have some cable stretch and you need to take slack out of the system, you can loosen up the cable anchor, pull the excess cable through, and retighten the cable anchor bolt. Another method, if you just need to remove a slight amount of slack from the system, is with a barrel adjuster. On a road bike or a cross bike disc brake system, you'll usually have an inline cable adjuster like this, which is somewhere situated along the cable. On a mountain bike, you'll have that barrel adjuster at the brake lever itself. But it works the same way. You just rotate it counterclockwise or clockwise to remove or add slack to the system. All right, the last adjustment we're going to cover today is adjusting the brake caliper if you have a wheel change or a rotor change and the rotor is in a slightly different position than it was. To do that, you're going to focus on the brake caliper fixing bolts. To center the brake caliper with the mounting bolts slightly loose, squeeze and hold the brake lever, and then tighten the caliper mounting bolts. And then you can use the brake pad adjustments we covered earlier to fine tune. And that's it. So those are the basics for adjusting mechanical disc brakes. If you have any further questions, check out our Learning Center online or visit one of our retail stores and talk to a spin doctor in person. Thanks and have a great ride.